Hey, hi, hello everyone. It is Mama Smash here coming at you with a speed build. And much like last week, I'm back with another shell challenge build that I did back in December. This one is from a different simmer. Her name is Vixella. She's pretty cool if you want to ever check out any of her stuff. But she did a shell build challenge, and so I decided to do that one today. And for this build challenge, I was in a very wintry mood. It was in kind of the early part of December, and I was really feeling like I wanted there to be snow and kind of be on a mountain far away from the end of the semester. So today's build is a cabin, and I ended up putting it up on the gallery as a rental because I think it could be a pretty cool little rental cabin, like a winter escape, if you would want to do that. So if you are new to my channel or new to The Sims, a shell challenge, which is what I'm doing today, is when a simmer makes a shell of a building, so they make the walls of it. You can see it's in the corner there for this build, and then they put it up on the gallery and anyone can download it and make it into whatever they want. So as long as you don't change the outer walls, everything else is pretty much up for grabs. So this is a really fun thing to do, and it's really fun to see what everybody does. People make restaurants or vet clinics, or in my case, a winter cabin. So it's always really fun to see the creativity there. And one thing that was fun for me about this build was that I actually was using the terrain tools, which this is probably one of the first times that I've experimented at least this much with the terrain tools in the game. It took me a while to figure out exactly how to use them, how to really make things like flat, so that it looks like there's a road kind of going through the mountainscape that I'll kind of build here. And so that was definitely a learning curve that took me a bit, but I also really appreciated this new opportunity of how to build. So let me know down in the comments if you have ever used the terrain tool, and if so, what are your best tips and tricks for that? I always love learning from my fellow simmers and hearing what a fun tip and trick could be to make my builds better. So like I said, this first part is definitely mostly me just trying to figure out how to use the terrain tool and then making the kind of environment that my build will go in. And that's because I kind of wanted this like mountain range. I'm picturing this you know, a nice area of going somewhere with your family. The build ends up being off the grid. It has the off the grid lot trait, and so I really was just picturing this kind of place away from everything else, and yeah, so that's kind of what I ended up building. And eventually I kind of had this nice space up at the top. I was able to move the build from down below up to the top where it's actually going to stay, and so that also was a relief to get it up there. And then I started building fences around the edges. I don't want people to fall because that would be really bad. So I'm kind of doing that, and did the path going up there. And I got this car from Debug, which if you would ever like to get anything from Debug, you open your cheats bar and you put in two cheats. The first one is bb.show hidden objects. And then enter, and then you would type in bb.show live edit objects, and you can kind of go through there, and there's lots of different stuff that we see in the worlds but we don't necessarily have in our normal build catalog, like this truck. So I have this little truck kind of going up to the cabin to do that. So then eventually I have this path up there, and then I just was trying to make the kind of ground around the house more flat, so that I was sure that like if there was a car that was going to be driving up here, a car actually could get up there. Now your Sims cannot walk on this terrain, in case you're wondering. I did not know that, but they cannot walk, at least not with this formation. So if you were to have your Sims come here on a vacation, it's pretty easy. If you had them as a rental, you would just kind of go up to the build and then hold down shift and click anywhere on the ground, and then click teleport sim, and it will teleport them. If you play, it'll teleport them up to the build, and then you have them at the build and they can kind of have their own little retreat getaway up there in the little mountain range for their vacation. So this will be on, this already is, I should say, is on my gallery as mountain cabin rental. My gallery ID is Mama Smash RR. If you're looking for a wintertime rental in your own game, then feel free to use it. And right now it's obviously not winter in the game. I wanted to be able to build without the snow being involved so I could kind of really see where the terrain was, but in just a bit after I start decorating the house, I will eventually come back and it'll be snow covered and beautiful snowy mountain range. So now that the build is really starting to take shape, I wanted it to be kind of like a log cabin off in the mountain range. So I started with kind of this like basic log cabin exterior with kind of the wood look, and then just kind of normal roofing. I wanted like a covered porch in the front. I figured if it was going to be snowy, then I kind of had to have some sort of cover if people were going to use a front porch. You know, it's not necessarily that it's always cold there, but maybe it's just really high altitude and so there's always snow around. I wanted it to be realistic, so I made sure that that truck technically can fit into that little kind of driveway area there. Not that it would need to, but it can if you need it to. And then I tried to use some of these little bump outs as like a little balcony and a couple of places for just some small roofing pieces. So this shell was a pretty easy one, pretty fun, really nice for a house. It was pretty square and had a couple bump outs, which just gave it like a more interesting shape than just a normal square. And but it was also like a very standard house for at least for me, for what I like feel comfortable building. So it didn't cause me much trouble there. Windows, I ended up using a lot of Strangerville windows. They're really big and kind of bright, but also look sturdy enough to be in a log cabin. And so that was fun, and they have kind of this green tone to them that I think adds to this like rustic cabin kind of theme that I was going for. There's enough beds for 2 parents and like a child, and so there's 2 bedrooms and then there's also 2 bathrooms. Like I said, it is off the grid, and so all of the appliances that are in there are ones that can be used off of the grid, and all of the activities that are like in there are ones that can be used off the grid. So there's not a TV, but there is, you know, like an art easel, and I think there's a chess table, and there's a cute little book nook that I end up putting in there and stuff. And obviously the appliances are also usable off the grid too. So and then a desk, you know, I could picture this like writer going on retreat there and having this nice space to write looking out over the mountain range. So it's just a desk, no laptop there to kind of crowd up the area. So and then so basically when you first walk in downstairs, there's kind of a little living space that has a living room with a fireplace and a dining room table and the kitchen, and then like a little reading nook area and seating area. And then upstairs there is a little open area for the desk, and then a parent's bedroom and a like kid's bedroom, and then there's a bathroom that both of those doors attach to. And outside there's like a little trash can and a couple of rocking chairs. You know, this could be used not during the winter. I don't know if it'll have the same effect because terrain looks kind of weird in The Sims, and you can't really color it at some point with terrain paint, and so this is what it would look like. The mountains would kind of look like if that was the case. So that's kind of your own decision, but it obviously doesn't have to be snowy. I did use platforms to kind of make this little seating area over here with the window seat, and then kind of put a bookshelf over in that corner to tie it all together, and I think it turned out really cute. I think it's kind of fun to use these platforms in new ways, and this was definitely one that I hadn't really used before, and so I appreciated that. As you can see, it has now snowed, and there's now snow all over the mountains, so it really gives that nice covered look instead of this weird like terrain, kind of grass, kind of gravel covered mountainside. So now we're just working on the inside mostly. Because it's off the grid, I kind of tried to put some like solar panels or like a wind turbine or something to give it a little bit of power so that it could use some things, but really didn't want that to like overtake it. And so I did focus mostly on this like lower portion, because I feel like this would be where your family would kind of hang out the most, is down here. So put lots of candles all around. That's one of the main lighting things, sorry, that you use if you're doing an off the grid build, because none of the other ones actually are off the grid. So lots of candles throughout this build, which I think gives it even more of a cozy feel as well. So yeah, now we're working on the little kitchen over here. Has fridge and oven just like you would need in a normal house, and it also has a little sink that's off the grid. Inside, a lot of the outer walls are only this wood, like just like on the outside. I figured that was pretty realistic, whereas the inner walls have this kind of mountain wallpaper to kind of liven it up. But the walls, if they touch the outside, are the wood just like the outside, because if that's the frame of the house, then it would make sense that one side looks pretty similar to the other side, particularly for like a log cabin. So there's that, and now I'm kind of moving around where the door is going to be. I put a door upstairs. There's a little balcony off the back of the parents' room or couple's room. It doesn't have to be parents. And then some windows all around. There's a bathtub upstairs and then a shower downstairs. So it was kind of fun to imagine, like, oh, like what if, you know, there was this nice window you could see outside from the bathtub. You're taking a relaxing bath or something. And then I raised up these little lanterns to kind of go along the wall instead of be sticking in the ground, which worked out for the bathroom. And then throughout the build, there's wood flooring, lots of wood. I figured it's basically a log cabin, so there's going to be a lot of wood pretty much everywhere. So lots of the like more sink type appliances, like plumbing type appliances, have wood. The walls are wood and stone. There's wood flooring. A lot of the like tables and stuff like that are wood. There's just a lot of wood everywhere. So and the seating area over here took me a little bit to figure out, but I knew I wanted a fireplace. That made sense to me, particularly for heating purposes if it's off the grid. And then I was trying to figure out what colors I wanted to use, and the green from the windows kind of gave me this more green vibe, very earthy tones, and so I kind of went with that green and brown theme throughout, and I think it worked really well. I think it looks really nice. There's also some white as well when we get to like the dining room table and things like that, but for the most part there's a lot of these like wood earthy tones that I think makes it really warm and really cozy. And then now I'm going in with the dining room table I was talking about. Like I said, it'll end up being white, so it's kind of like a contrast from the rest of the wood, or at least the chairs will end up being white. And then going through and deciding about the kitchen and just really playing around with colors, seeing what looks good. I thought about, oh, maybe I can put like a little island in. That didn't really fit exactly, so I stopped doing that. And then trying to do colors upstairs with the little kind of office area and like little reading chair over in this corner. I wanted there to be kind of comfy looking chair with this little candelabra and, you know, a little table with some books ready for you. And of course a rug. I figure rugs on wood floors in the middle of the winter in a cabin is probably really helpful, because if you're like me and you don't like to wear socks around, then you like those rugs for your toes. So there's that. And then I tried to make sure that there was some different things throughout the build that people could use for skill building. So there's like a guitar, there's a chess table, there is easel out in the back, and then obviously bookshelves, so your Sims could read, or if you brought books with you, they could read as well. And figuring out this back porch took a little bit, because I had originally raised it up one, and then the doors out to it didn't, there was like a space between them because it would be a step up, because I had raised it up on a platform. So I Ended up raising up the entire room of the parents, and then just kind of like the one square outside of the door to their room is also raised up, so that you step up, then you would walk in the door, and then you're one step up. Yeah, now we're just kind of getting to the end, going around, putting in all that clutter. You know, I love clutter. And put some little aspen trees. I figured that made sense for up in the mountains. And yeah, kind of went around, put in a hanging plant, put in some little cute little guys. I put in this like sculpture over on the table when you first come in, and I didn't know that if you just kind of place one of those sculpture blocks, it just kind of does a random one. It doesn't necessarily do the one it shows you. So that was definitely something new that I learned while doing this build. And now I'll go ahead and put in some landscaping, always important. I mostly kept my landscaping up on this top of the mountain where the actual build is, rather than kind of like throughout the terrain. And then I came back and wanted a coffee table here, but all the coffee tables are so big, and with these kind of 3 seating areas, I didn't know if I wanted 1 or 2, like 2 different tables, or like 1 big table. But I eventually figured it out with this 1 big table. I think it looks great, but it took me a bit to figure out what I wanted to do. And then obviously some final art pieces on the wall, and some final rugs and stuff, welcome mat, different things like that. And then I'll add a couple of little final touches on this coffee table. So that's going to be about it for today. Hope you're all having a smashing day. Bye!